Mr. Jennings, this question is for you. You called for a reduction in the city's workforce to meet budgetary demands. This move, if approved, would affect more than 200 families in a struggling economy, and some fear that it would reduce city services. How would you work to negate the impact of the plan and ensure that people would keep all of the services that are currently provided?
It's about efficiency and management, effective management. The public assistance. We just, cities cannot afford to be in that business. If we're looking at jobs strictly for people to have jobs, we're spending other people's money, and to be good stewards of that, you have to run an efficient government. And what was the last part of the question? Oh, in sacrifice services? Absolutely not. With effective management, and it appears that we lack a little bit of that, maybe a lot of it, but you can do more with less with the right people and the right managers. And me being a small business owner, I mean, and anybody out there who is in management knows that that's kind of the bottom line, is you can do the most with what you have. And I just feel like right now, if you compare other cities and the number of people who work for other cities of our size, it's nearly double. So there's certainly room for improvement there.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Thompson, as an employee in the IT department in the city of Vicksburg and as the administrator of TV23, you've experienced many different issues in dealing with the upper administration. How would you go about resolving some of those problems should you be elected?
Problems are something that you're going to have. The challenge is how do you address those problems. From my experience, I believe as an administrator we need to effectively communicate with our department heads. We need to set our goals and make our expectations known. One of the problems I saw was there wasn't a lot of direction given. And as anybody that's a manager knows that you have to effectively communicate, you have to make your priorities known, and you have to give direction. And you have to be there to make corrections, you have to be there to make support when necessary. But the primary thing is being on task and making your priorities known so your people working under you will know what your expectations are. And when we don't have expectations and we don't have direction, then everybody is doing their own thing. And if we're going to help the city of Vicksburg move forward more effectively, everyone must know at all times what's expected of them. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Dolan, you have touted your years as a law enforcement officer throughout your campaign. How do you believe that your experience in that field will benefit you should you be elected to represent the South Ward?
Well, first of all, I've been involved with tornadoes, hurricanes, flooding. I've been out there myself with hip boots and chest waders on. I know what it takes to get out there and get the job done. I know how to pool our resources together at the police department. I'm very familiar, like I say, with natural disasters. I'm very familiar with communications. Within 911, the fire department, police department, sheriff's department. We have a good relationship with the sheriff's department and Chief Atkins at the fire department. And I just feel like my 31 years of experience with the sheriff's department, gaming commission. I know all their rules and regulations and what they expect of the casinos during flood times. Same with hurricanes or tornadoes. Familiar with evacuations and all that type of thing. So I think my 31 years experience at the Sheriff's Department, Police Department, and Gaming Commission would be a huge plus for the city of Vicksburg.
Thank you, Mr. Jennings. Of the candidates with whom you are seated, you have spent the most time away from Vicksburg. What brought you back? What keeps you here? And what experience makes you uniquely qualified to represent the South Ward?
Yeah, I did. I lived in Boston and I lived in Dallas. I finished school out there, and I came back to Vicksburg with a fresh pair of eyes. And, that sometimes is a very good thing because you don't become entrenched in the way things are. Living in other places, you get to learn what works and what doesn't work. As far as my capabilities, my education, I felt like a lot of my friends, let's see, what brought me back to Vicksburg? It's just home. Living in a big city, I've done that for, I think, a total of about 10 years. And getting back to Vicksburg all at once, I guess you get a little bit older and you kind of slow down a little bit. And Vicksburg had a nice pace to it, but it also had a very homey feel about it because I'm from here. And it's a beautiful spot. I started recognizing that the Vicksburg National Military Park, there's no other place in the world like it. There's no other place in the world like Vicksburg. And that largely brought me back here. It just, can you give me one more? What was the very last part of it then?
Sorry, I have too many pieces of paper.
I'm wearing you out, I'm sorry.
What experience makes you uniquely qualified to represent the South Fork?
Oh, certainly. Small business and also my education background. My buddies went on to be city managers in the Dallas area, but certainly that gives you a view on Vicksburg and a perspective, again, on what works and doesn't work. But small business, running a government is running a business. It's about making the most of your resources in the most effective manner possible.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. You have successfully run your business for almost half a century. How will that experience help you to shape the economic future of our city in a positive way?
I've run several businesses. I tell people everybody everywhere. I've had successes. I've had some failures. For anybody out there, I've learned more from my failures than I've been my successes. Happily, I've had more success than I have failure. I think that the years of being running a small business, managing a small business, although it was small when I was in the convenience store business, I was working 125 people. And we're working very successfully. I've had many employees. I've had to go out and solicit business. I've had to go out and deal with major oil companies. I've had to deal with railroads. I've had to deal with industry. When I was in the petroleum business to sell oil, when I was in the steel business, I was selling steel. And that particular part of my experience, I sell Vicksburg the same way. I use my contacts, I use my business knowledge. I can go talk to a businessman, I can speak his language. I've done it, I've been there. You can ask me anything you want to ask me about Vicksburg and about the business climate here, and I've done it, I've been there. So I can ask questions, and I know who to contact, I know who to call, and I want to do that. The main thing is this is giving me the desire to do this. I want to do this. I don't have to do this. I can go hide and stay in my construction, stay by the website construction the rest of my life. But I feel like the Vicksburg needs somebody like me with experience, background, and education, come in and use that experience, use those contacts to try to do the same thing with Vicksburg that I did to make my business successful.
Thank you. Mr. Dolan, public safety is a concern of every citizen of Vicksburg. What will you do, given your experience in that sector, to increase safety and awareness?
Well, I think the last 3.5 years, the police department has done a good job. As far as increasing the awareness, we go into schools quite often. I was at Dana Road a couple of weeks ago helping out. I've been doing that since the 1970s, going into our schools and talking to our children. It's important. We had some young children tour the police department the other day. And it's important that we communicate with our schools. Like I say, our officers are in the schools all the time. Walkthroughs or speaking to schools. We have 2 community resource officers that are involved with the schools quite heavily. It's very important. Could you repeat that question one more time?
Sorry. Public safety is a concern of every citizen of Vicksburg. What will you do, given your experience in that sector, to increase safety and awareness?
Well, I need to make sure that the police department has and the fire department have the money they need to operate. I've controlled the budget of the police department for the last 3.5 years. My budget is a little over $6 million. It's the largest budget in the city. And I've been able to keep my budget from going up. It's very important. And I think that, like I said earlier, the police department's done a great job of keeping violent crime down. Our violent crime is way down. We're still working on the bank robbery that happened a couple of weeks ago. As far as burglaries are always a problem. They have been a problem. That's one area that we need to make some improvements, burglaries and larcenies. As far as juvenile crime, we've had some trouble in schools. As you saw in the paper today, there's going to be a changeover at Vicksburg High School. And I understand they're going to be hiring some more school resource officers for the high schools. Each high school should get one more each. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Thompson, one of the things that separates you from your opponents in this race is the fact that you have young children. What do you feel the city of Vicksburg can do to increase youth involvement and activities, and how would you work to accomplish these things during your term in office?
Yes, I do have young children. I have 5 children that we're raising in this community. My wife is also an educator, so I'm very involved in the school system already as a parent and through association. I believe we need to be give greater support to our school system in order to help improve our school system and be a big plus for the youth in this community. And we also need to look to bring in more family-oriented activities. It's families this community is built upon, and that's what our focus should be. Also, I believe that education is just a key to whatever we do now and in the future. It's going to have a strong foundation. And I am a great advocate of education. And during my term, I will work very closely with the school system to do whatever I can as a public official to render that support where it's needed. I also believe that keeping our community safe, keeping communications between our police departments and our school system would also help curb some activities that may happen at the school. When things happen, we have to communicate those things before they can escalate. So communication is the key. Building on education is also a big, great key.